Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. Today we will be painting the Killaboss on Great Gnashtooth from the Age of Sigmar Dominion box. Now I'm going to paint this to tabletop battle ready standard and use mostly army painter stuff. So this is just to get it on your table quick, not too fancy, but it will require a lot more paints than our normal battle ready models because it is our boss, be the focal point of the army. Now to paint this, I primed him in standard Mechanicus gray. Starting with the army painter paints, I used jungle green, leather brown, fur brown, oak brown, gunmetal, shining silver, ash gray, Necromancer cloak, desert yellow, dragon red, scar tissue, matte white, greedy gold, weapons bronze, kobold skin, and scar tissue. I used Vallejo German Camouflage Beige, World War II, but any of the darker khakis would work fine. I used Citadel's Mephiston Red and Ionrach Skin. I also used their Stirland Mud to texture the base. Then I used as washes Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade. So let's go ahead and get started with this model. So my Killaboss is primed standard Mechanicus gray. So when we paint this model, we should think about it in three parts. The boss on the top, the little creature he rides, and the base. Now where I'm going to start is with some Army Painter Alien Purple, and I'm going to put a base coat down on the little mounted creature here. I always forget the name of it, but you see we got a little brush here that'll be good to work close to some of the other like leather materials. But I've got a lot of real estate here, so it might be time to switch over to a larger brush. And here's one that I've messed up, and I just used it to glop on paint real quick. That's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead, get the purple on. Now I've got all the purple on there, I'm going to shift to, let's see, I'm going to use a Mephiston Red because it is my favorite red. Good base coat here. We're just going to do the shield. I'm going to go ahead and do the teeth and the tongue. The only other part I'm going to paint red is the little top knot there. And it kind of goes all over the place. And that's the reason I'm doing the red now. So I'm going to do the red nice and sloppy on there, get a good coat. And I'm just going to cut in with the other colors that are going to surround it. I'll show that. Now I want to start working on the base. So I'm going to use some Stirland Mud, and I've got my tool here. This is going to take a lot of Stirland Mud, and what I want to do is push a bunch of it into that little line. So you see the plastic there ties into the base, but it leaves this little gap. It's going to show up in the paint job. So I'm going to try to seam those two together, because the Stirland Mud will dry in the same texture as what's on the plastic model. Let me go all around the base. I'm just going to swirl it around, give it some random texture. I don't want to look like it's been paletted on. And push it into the plant. Try to really make it look like the plastic model and the base it sits on are all one piece. Now, the Stirland Mud has dried, So I'm going to take some Necromancer Cloak and a brush I've already messed up, and I'm just going to rub it in there. And now once color plastic and Stirland Mud, we can see as you can start unifying those two surfaces. Now I'm going to take some Army Painter Oak Brown, already put in my palette here, and I'm going to put anything that's a wood texture. So you can see part of his saddle here. And we'll do the spear. And he's got a little bannerman back here. Now we're going to go ahead and do the Orc Skin. We're going to use some Army Painter Jungle Green here. We'll shake it up. And we will lob it on with one thick coat. Being careful not to touch any of the areas we already painted. At this point, I'm going to use some Army Painter Leather Brown and do all big acreage leather hides that's going on here. Still want to be careful not to touch the purple or the green, otherwise we'll have to tidy that up and that just takes longer. This will take a while on this model. Next I'm going to take some Fur Brown. What you'll notice is there's these little bundles around the model, and I'm going to paint those this color of brown. So just wherever we see those long reed bundles that seem to hold everything down for these guys. Now I've got some Army Painter Ash Gray, and what I'm going to do is do the stonework around the base of the model. Now we're going to take some Army Painter Weapon Bronze, and I'm going to do this big plate here and these little plates here. Now I'm going to use some Army Painter Scaly Hide to do the hanging swamp moss. So it's already in my palette. Just do right down there, and you can kind of fudge where it ties into the stone. So a light green is good for this. You can also stipple it into some of the lower edges. Now I'm going to take some Xandri Dust, or any dark khaki color, and I am going to paint the reeds. finish on the reeds, I'm going to go back to my Army Painter Leather Brown and do that top right there. Now I'm going to take some Army Painter Gunmetal towards my palette. I'm going to hit these metal plates, the armor. There's a bunch of little spiky bits. All over, so we'll just look for those. Now with the gunmetal on, I'm going to use some Army Painter Scar Tissue. And for that, that's for the tongue. And also the little monster's tongue in here. Now I finished blocking in a lot of the colors that I want to, but now I'm going to do a little mix. I know this is scary, but move up to these bigger creatures, it's worth taking a risk on. So we're going to take our alien purple, and I'm going to put some drops in there. Then I'm going to take some matte white. Like that. Then we're going to stir this up. And shake everything on the table. And then we're going to go back to our handy dry brush here. Dip and wipe most of the paint off on a piece of paper that's off camera. I'm just going to start now what I'm aiming for is just the undersides of the creature. So you see how we're changing the tone like that? And remember, we can put as much or as little on as we want. Let's see, look at that. Very subtle change. You know, it's not as advanced as what they have in the color art, but it's pretty good. And remember, it's just paint. This is just a light dry brush, so it'll probably cover up. You could cover it up in later stages if you're unhappy with how it turned out. Now I probably want a little bit more on the underside, but you really can't see that. So we put more coats on this part, on the lower extremities than on the upper, and that will just create a little contrast there. Now I've finished all my blocking in that I'm going to do for now, and I'm going to take a big brush here, wet it down a little bit. I've got some Nuln Oil, and we're going to start liberally applying this. So you remember that lighter purple I just put on? This will stain it darker. Of course, some of that dark purple still there. So look at it, creates a variety of colors there. I mean tones. Now I'm going to chew through a lot of Nuln Oil to cover this guy, but that's alright. Now you want to be careful about is not getting any pockets, dry spots, so sometimes you have to flip this guy over, try to get underneath. And of course just keep going down. So it's great work on the stonework. And the little plants. Started going way off camera there. Now we're going to use some shining silver here. I've got a brush that I've cut down to just nubs, so it acts as like a dry brush. And I'm just going to hit just some of the edges. Just run it around real quick. So now I'm going to take some unpainted greedy gold. I'm going to put around some parts of the plates here, set some of the high edges, and get that golden device. Now I'm going to take some Army Painter Scaly hide, and I'm going to take my homemade dry brush. I'm going to get most of the paint off of it, and I'm just going to dry brush it a little like that. Don't have to do this too much. Trick is the face, don't touch the rest of the armor. See, it brings out a lot of character in him. Now I'm going to take some Ionrach Skin, which is my favorite paint for covering up other items. So what I'm going to do is there's various objects around here. It's skin and heads, little hands here, little skulls. So you can see there's a couple of these around. Next we'll take some Army Painter Dragon Red, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the raised portions of the red just I'll move my brush around. Kind of like a little highlight here. And we got several red plates that we put in. And if you've made any mistakes like I have, like get some silver in my red there, this gives you a chance to cover it up. Now I'll use some Army Painter Kobold Skin, and I'm only going to pick out a couple things because I want the various dismembered parts to look different ages, so that means we're going to put different skin colors. So the Kobold Skin will go on. Now, the thing is, you don't have to get a completely smooth, perfect coverage on the Kobold Skin. You can actually have any lack of coverage in the area could actually look like the hand is aging more. And I'll probably do the big guy here. I'm definitely doing the flag. Just one coat. It's going to be muddled in its thickness there. And I know I want to do this hand here. Now with some Army Painter scar tissue, I'm going to just very lightly, probably can show it easier on this side, just kind of mark out, let the brush guide through. It looks like it's been stamped in there. And then I'll do that here. Just a little hint of color. Wipe off, don't need in there. There we go, and we'll change that eventually. Now I clean that off, and I get some Drakenhof Nightshade. Now all those fleshy bits I did, get my brush and I get it super wet because I want to thin down this on the brush. So we'll dip it in there, and a nice thin coat of blue on. So that one. See, it came out really nice. Gives the Ionrach skin a rather dusky parlor to it. Dip in some water, washes it down. And just keep going that until it's the color I'm happy with. Horrible on the brush, the way I'm doing it. That's fine. Get another one. Oh, jeez, that was off camera. Okay, so this is what I was doing. Just a little blue. Make sure to get the back side of everything. Now I'm going to take some Agrax Earthshade. And that's going to be for the one that's a full-on skull. Excellent. That's going to take a second to dry. Now I'm going to take some Vallejo German Camouflage Beige, World War II. It's one of my favorite khakis. So, any khaki will actually do. And I am going to get various teeth on this thing here. So, alright. And I also want to do little nails. Jeez, not doing a good job showing this. It's a little unwieldy here. Okay, so just touch the paint on. Get that one. And I'll do these teeth here. Now I've got some Army Painter Desert Yellow. And what I'm going to do is, you see all these little stitchings in here. I'm just going to run my brush down the length of the top of the stitch. And just take your time, slowly use the tip of the brush. And I'm also going to use it for this necklace here. Alright, and so I've got also little strands here that affix the heads. So you see there's little stitches everywhere. So we're going to take care of those. Now with some matte black, what I'm going to do is there's this old door hinge right there, and I want to get this corpse's hair. Going to go back to my Vallejo here. Since I've got a lot of my colors pretty much done, need some more. Okay, so I'm going to take my big super duper dry brush here, get a little bit of paint on it, wipe most of it off. Just something to highlight the brown. And don't worry about hitting the purple. Now for the final bit here, I'm going to take my dry brush. I've got back to my ash gray. I've got just doing the usual dry brush. I'll run in two directions, perpendicular to each other. So I'll go like this, and I'll go like this. That way it doesn't look like I just scribbled a brush along the side here. Now for our last step, we're going to take some Army Painter Glistening Blood. This is one of their effects paints. I like to save blood for last, because I want it to stay shiny. So you can see modeled in here that there's drips. So we're going to go around all the severed hands and heads. And get those coated. Do a little dabble around there. You can also change it for how old you want the blood to look. There we go. And for this one, I get to play around with this. Alright, so I think we'll call that a day on the blood effect. So that is our Killaboss on Great Gnashtooth. Well, thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs. We'll see you next time.